And what we ended up doing, if you listen, you can hear the K2 Plus is working. Yeah, we cleared the clog. This was an interesting thing that we had, and yeah, it was a doozy. So details matter, and just want to kind of show you what we got printing here. So yeah, we're doing some little stuff there. Yeah, these are going to be some welding fusion type of things. So let me get this set up so see what's going on. Just so many problems, so many things going on. And we'll put the K2 in the background. Yeah, that ended up having some problems. What we ended up with is I was printing with PETG. I was trying to do some paint holders, excuse me, some paint holders, 17 millimeter bottles for my Army War Painter set, the airbrush set, and printing in PETG. Next thing you know, I had done my riser. I just finished that up, and so I was going to print this and just do it in PETG. Who cares? You know, we'll just go ahead and we'll run with it. So anyway, next thing I know, it's not working, stopped, problem, said there was a clog in the printer and, or in the nozzle, and so I'm like, okay, well, you know, it's PETG, whatever. Excuse me. You know, and I had the little tools and you know, the tweezers and you know, the small little needles to go up into the nozzle. I even had some cleaning filament that you could put in there to clean, and the pin. Did all the stuff that Creality says to do on their wiki page, which is nice. Though with that being said, whenever there's a problem, it can say, you know, there's little options that stopped, and then retry, help, or okay. If you go to help, it'll pop up with it'll pop up with a QR code, and that QR code will take you to their wiki page, and the wiki page you got to sort through all the different numbers. I really wish that they would update that so when the problem that you're having, like CM 2874, whatever the number is, that corresponds to the actual page for that fault. Instead, it just takes you to a page, and then you have to scroll down and find the fault. And then click the link, and then go to the page and figure out what the problem is on what you got going on. So, yeah, did that, cleaned the nozzle, good to go on that, put everything back together, and lo and behold, nope, doesn't work, still doesn't work. And I was like, what the hell's going on? And then other problems popped up. I had like a CFS problem, and in my last video I took the back of the CFS or the bottom of it off and cleaned that out, dusted it, whatever, with the dust devil. And I thought, you know, everything's moving through, inspected the Bowden tubes, and I was good to go. Put all that back together and threw it, you know, boom, we're good. Still having problems. And this time it says there's motor resistance. So it's stopping, and it's like, well, what motors? You have your X, Y, and Z axis motors. You know, you got lead screws and all this stuff. And I'm like, you know, the rails. And I'm just like, I just serviced it. You know, I cleaned everything, lubed everything up. It's good to go because those things need to be done. So anyway, it ends up, it says that there's resistance. And I'm like, well, the resistance, the way the filament goes through from the CFS, goes into the machine, goes into the extruder, you know, hot end and all that stuff, and you have the gears in the extruder. I'm like, there's only so many things there. So my thinking is it's not the X, Y, and Z. And the Creality stuff just says motors, or the motor is restricted or whatever. So I'm thinking, okay, so it's not the CFS because everything seems to be working there. Check the Bowden tubes and all that. So I go back to the extruder, and then I get I try to turn it off and turn it on. Everybody does that. So when it comes back on, I try doing it again. It ends up, it says there's a clog, and I'm like, there's got to be something within that line where the filament goes into the actual extruder, and you have a motor, you have gears, and then the metal gears, you know, that bring the filament down as it goes down and into the hot end and poops it out and makes your product. So I took it apart again, checked the nozzle's clean. We're good to go. I checked the other parts, good to go. Then, as I pulled that front part out, what ended up happening, of course, the spring goes flying out. And then as I was closely inspecting, very closely inspecting at the bottom of that little square piece, at the place where the filament goes out, right up maybe about, I don't know, 5 millimeters up, and there's a little ramp, and it ends up there's a clog there. And it was actually about that big, and it was squished PETG, and it had just kind of went over the sides, and that's what was causing the problem. So everything from there up was perfectly fine. But the problem was that it just, and everything from the nozzle down was fine. It was just that little bit of space in between that caused the problem. So yeah, I was pretty happy with that. But you know, hearing the stories of the problems with the Creality and you know all of this stuff, I've got some electronics training, so I kind of flipped on my old thinking brain, and I was like, okay, details matter. Let me really look at this to see. And I looked at the gears, and I'm like, well, let's take the gears out to see if there's something on the metal that's binding, if they're too worn, which they shouldn't be. But I do have replacements coming in just in case. So upon that closer inspection, what I ended up finding was that glob that was just in there. So, and if you didn't take it apart, you wouldn't see that clog in that extruder part. So yeah, a lot of stuff going around. So as soon as I cleared that out, and all I did is just take a little bit of pliers and just kind of wiggle it, and boom, yeah, like I said, it was about 5 millimeters worth of PETG was stuck in there. But it had built up enough, but I could get the filament, the cleaning filament through, and it went through the nozzle okay. So it was just enough space to just, as soon as you put regular filament in there, that's what ended up causing the resistance to the motor that was in the extruder. The motor that brings down the filament into the nozzle, the hot end, and all that stuff. But once I got that little piece out, as you can see, we're up and running. So yeah, and I think, like I said, I think there's some reasons for that. One of the reasons is that everything is in Chinese, simplified Chinese, and it had to be translated into English, at least on my phone. So when it pops up and it says, CM, whatever, or FO, or whatever error code comes up, and I click on the link, from the QR code on the display, what ends up happening is it pops up in Chinese first, then it has to be translated into English. So when it says motor, I wish they were a little bit more specific as saying the extruder motor, the motor in the extruder, whatever it is, that you'd get a little bit more pinpoint information than just motor. Motor's restricted because you have motors in the CFS. Hey, print it out. We have motors in the CFS, you have motors in the machine itself, you have motors in the extruder, and yes, we printed out our thing. So, successful print. This is going to be for the friction welding that I saw on Uncle Jesse's channel, and he actually, it's retracting, and I think we're good. Yep, and it pooed white. And this is done, correct? Yep, done. And so these are the these are the friction welders that they're going to end up having. Where is it? get my little scraper. But these are the friction welders, and I figured I'd print this as a test instead of doing a benchy because I've already got enough benchies, I don't need any more. So I figured I'd just do the test with the full calibration. And for those people that are wondering, when it does the full calibration before the print, it will do this stuff right here, and you can actually take a look and see how those layers are printed out. So I always do that. I mean, I'll do it for the first print, and then if I'm doing more on, there it is, so that came out kind of cool. I'll do it on the first print, and then if I'm doing successive prints or the same material, I won't run it again. So let's see if we get this one out of the way. And then on this side, it does the layers there, and then it puts those marks on there, and then it goes back and it reads it or whatever. So I guess I set for the advanced pressure advance and all that stuff. But yeah, it comes out kind of good. So I'm happy, I'm pleased, it's working again, and yeah, with these friction, if I can get it off the build plate, with these little friction welding things from Uncle Jesse, I think that'll be kind of cool. I had to print these out with a brim, that is recommended. But yeah, these just end up, these will screw onto your Dremel, and then as this rotates at a high speed, very high speed, the PLA, these are PLA, these will melt and you can actually weld your parts together. Other ways of connecting your parts is by doing, of course you have CA, super glue, but that's only going to last for so long. Friction welding, you can also do, as I'm grabbing the soldering iron, that's what I ended up using, was a soldering iron to do welding on my riser, to give it a little, to do that, and that works out well. But I'm interested in trying the friction welding to see how well that works. So yeah, good to know. We've got a bunch of this stuff, and the K2 is up and running again. I do suggest that, a little bit of tweaks here and there for the Creality wiki pages and all that stuff, like I said. Other things I would like. What other things would I like with this? Oh, adjusting the speed. What is interesting is that on the Creality app on my phone, you can adjust the speed, and you can do it on Creality Print. I haven't tried it on the phone. No, you can do it on the phone. But on the display, if you want to change the speed, you have the choice of silent, which I'm not sure how low that goes as far as speed, but then there's stable, which is 50% speed, and then there's normal at 100%, and then there's ultra fast, which is 125%. But what I would like to see on the machine is an option to where go in increments of 5, and be able to choose, or just have a scroll wheel that you could pick the speed that you want. The other thing that I would like to do is to be able to run my prints, like the first 5 layers or whatever, at say 50% on stable, and then after that it goes up to 100%. I'm not sure how to do that. I know there's a lot of smart people that know how to do that. Maybe inform me on how to do that with Creality Print. I'm not sure. We'll see how that goes. So now that we're back up and running, yeah, I just wanted to give you the good news, and yeah, fun stuff. Okay, be sure to like and subscribe. We'll see you on the next video, okay? Peace. Finally, back to working. Good.